welcome to another episode of the Gold Country Media Sports Jam. I'm Jordan.
Aaron.
Not here.
All right. Well, we've had first week of playoffs kind of come and gone. I think we had a few scores that were a little eye-opening around the area. We're going to talk a little playoffs. We also, all three of us, I think, had a volleyball team win a section championship over the weekend. So bravo to you girls. We'll talk a little bit about that and just talk about what we've got coming up on this weekend of sports in the area. But first things first, how's everyone's weekend?
Pretty good. Right after we had the show last week, I went and beat the Dixon Gourmets, which was fun. And then pretty much just a lot of sports coverage this week. And watched a little bit of football, but yeah, pretty much just been a lot of sports coverage because it's playoff time.
All right, Matt, what about you?
Well, my Phillies bowed out gracefully in the World Series, but that was to be expected. So, maybe next year.
Hey, you know what? As an A's fan, I think we can just be jealous that you have an organization that will pay guys money and make it to the World Series.
Yeah.
And,
hey, congratulations on making the run you did.
Yeah.
Oh,
if it makes you feel better, Matt, the Raiders are, I saw a stat that my Raiders are 53-5 since the year 2000 when having a 17-point lead. And 3 of those 5 losses are this season. But I'm told that the coach isn't the problem. So, I don't know. We'll see. On the bright side, my Florida State Seminoles went into Miami and won by 42. So that's always fun because one of my favorite things about college football is seeing Miami fans sad. And I will just gladly soak in that. But back to the high school football. I know we had some big ones this week. Aaron, let's kind of start with you. You had Lincoln and Natomas over there. Kind of talk to me about that game and what you saw in that.
Yeah, for sure. This was pretty much like a record-setting night. A lot of people probably didn't look at this game as something to put on their radar. And Lincoln and Natomas, you're thinking, yeah, it's probably not the most the biggest matchup in the area. However, it was huge for Lincoln. They won 52-26, so they're going to the second round of the playoffs. But not only do they win, it's the first time that Lincoln has won a playoff game in back-to-back seasons for the first time in school history. For context, Zebras have had a football team ever since 1950, so we're talking 72 years there. So that was the first thing that was hugely noteworthy. Secondly, Ryan Hing, who I've talked about all season, he absolutely went off. I've mentioned he's had some crazy 200 yards, I think a 250-yard game. Well, he did even more than that. He broke 2 school records. He scored 5 touchdowns on the night, bringing him to 29 total on the season, surpassing the 28 that was set by Ryan Graham back in 2016. He also ran for 296 yards, but Max Prep shows 352. Regardless, the yardage was to give him the most rushing yards in a single season with, I believe, 18-13, if I'm not mistaken. So huge night for him, huge night for the Zebras. But, talking about the game a little bit, it was actually their quarterback, Thomas Mukai, that got the scoring started on Friday with a 3-yard rushing touchdown before Henning punched it in from 2 yards out. Sean Cotton got on the scoreboard in the quarter with a 6-yard rushing touchdown. Natomas did get some big plays, and that is a red flag for Lincoln going forward. Natomas had a pretty quick team out there, and their running back and their receiver, their top running back, their top receiver were definitely able to get things going along with Michael Hendricks, their back. Nighthawks got on the board with a 58-yard touchdown connection between Michael Hendricks to McKay Bird, but the Zebras got back down the field for a 27-yard field goal to make it a 24-6 ball game at halftime. Henning scored 2 touchdowns to start the third quarter before Hendricks connected with Kahiri Lewis for a 43-yard score. Mukai definitely didn't have the best passing night as he was 3 of 11 for 2 interceptions and I believe 103 yards. One of those interceptions ended up being a 50-yard pick 6 that made it 30-18 in the third and started looking like it might be a bit of a ball game. But Henning shut the door with 2 more third quarter downs. Again, defensively, the Zebras still need to tackle better, and that could be a problem against the receiver combo of Darius Doyle and Travis Mariero this week at Kimball. Like I said, they also need to be more efficient in the passing game, but a huge game for the Zebras, a historic night, record-breaking night, pretty exciting.
All right, I like it. Lincoln is one of those teams that I think we kind of talked about, wherever they're going to be a problem. And I think it's testament that they went 5-5 this year and they ended up with a 5 seed. I mean, they were probably one win away from if they pull out that West Park game, they're probably looking at a 3 or 4 seed. So, you're looking at a first round bye there.
Well, I
Matt,
think
kind of
that
throwing it over to you. I know you guys, it wasn't the best game for Vista Del Lago, but it was a game that opened a lot of eyes around the section. Kind of talk about what you saw Friday night from Vista and Yuba City.
Yeah, it was a Vista 48-6 loss to Yuba City. Vista came into the game 6-4. Yuba City was 4-6. This was 6 seed. Yuba City 11 seed. And from the start of the game, Yuba got the opening kickoff, drove down the field in 11 plays and scored runs and 1 pass, and they made it look easy. And they were only up 13-0, but it felt like it was 28-0. Yuba City is a huge team. Their offensive line averages 260. Their quarterback is also plays linebacker. Nick Afado. He is 6'1", 210 pounds. That's the big back. He carried the ball 12 times for 144 yards and 3 touchdowns. So everything about Yuba City, big, physical, and run the ball. They only passed the ball 5 times the whole game in two completions. So they rushed for 387 yards and totally controlled the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. So anyway, at the time they're up 13-0. That's not or 14-0. I'm sorry, close game, and the game's not over yet. But it seemed like it was more because their other 2 possessions they missed field goals, and it really didn't do anything offensively. So it's halftime. I'm thinking, something doesn't happen, something doesn't change. This is going to lose. And I expected the Vista to come out, score on the opening possession, make it 14-7 back in the ball game. It's not what happened. They 3 and out. They punted. First play from scrimmage, 50-yard touchdown run for Yuba City. So right there, it's 20-0. They missed the extra point, but right there, I thought in my head, ball game, because Yuba City scored 2 more times, 4-0 before Vista got on the scoreboard. Their only points were a 35-yard touchdown pass from Johnny Kitt to Matt Long, but it just wasn't the Eagles' night.
Yeah, it feels like sometimes it's just one of those nights. The problem is when you have one of those nights now, it ends your season. And I think Yuba City too. I think that was a tough draw to have them as an 11 seed. I think looking at where they were ranked in a lot of rankings at the beginning of the year, the season didn't go the way they thought. But knowing how much talent is on that roster, it did kind of feel like some people were thinking it's only a matter of time before they kind of put it together over there. I know, Aaron, you can probably attest to that. Them being a CVC team, you've had your eye on them all year, but that's a team that Yuba City, even as 11 seed, they could easily make a little run in the playoffs. Vista Del Lago is no slouch this year. And, to go into Folsom and do that, that's a big game for them.
Well, I was pretty surprised that Yuba City lost. And I actually predicted, if you remember back earlier in the season, that Lincoln was going to lose that game, and Lincoln ended up winning that game. I think at the time Yuba City did have a couple of injuries, but them going 4-6 also is a testament how strong the CVC is too, which doesn't get talked about as much. They kind of get overshadowed a bit by the SFL and other bigs in the area. But when you have to go through teams like Endercombe, Antelope, and a Wood Creek team this year that, as we'll get into in a little bit, won their first playoff game. It's a tough league, and that's not even talking about Roseville too. It's a very difficult league.
Yeah, I'm with you. And before we get into that, Friday night I was at a game where I kind of came in with the expectation. I was up at Colfax to watch the Falcons take on defending state champion Argonaut. Argonaut went 4-6, but I talked to Coach Jason Stowers before the game, and he told me, anytime your program wins a state championship, you won that for a reason. You're not a bad program. And, Colfax came into that one, and I was expecting them to roll, but Argonaut came out and punched them in the mouth. 4 plays into the game. It was 4 rushes with 4 different players, and all of a sudden the Mustangs are up 7-0. Colfax going to move the ball down the field, ends up turning it over on downs. Argonaut comes right back early second quarter and makes it 14-0. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, what's going on? Colfax can't move the ball. They can't stop Argonaut. The Falcons got one. Malachi Thompson came in, making it 14-7. It looked like it might be a ball game. And then on a long third down late in the second quarter, probably 30 seconds left, Argonaut gets a 64-yard touchdown run. And all of a sudden it's 22-7. And they got the 2-point conversion on fake field goal. And all of a sudden, it feels like Colfax just has to move a mountain to get back into this game. Argonaut had 242 rushing yards in the first half, and they had 4 different running backs that they were hitting Colfax with, and Colfax didn't have an answer for any of them. And it was, I was looking at some of the other people around me on the sideline, and we were kind of like, this game might be a 48-7 ball game. And all of a sudden, Colfax gets the ball back to start third quarter, and we're like, okay, they have to put up points here, and it has to be 6. And all of a sudden, Cannon Tomlin is carrying the workload on that, and he punches it in on a 9-yard touchdown run. And then Argonaut just, they have that 2-point conversion in their back pocket. They get 2 offside calls, one on the PAT attempt that moves Colfax up, and then another one on the ensuing 2-point conversion that Colfax decided to go for. So they essentially give Colfax the ball on the 1-inch line, and Colfax punches in. Now all of a sudden it's 22-15. You lose that 2-point conversion right there. And then, Colfax gets stopped. Malachi Thompson ends up leading another big drive and punches it in on the final play of the third quarter, and all of a sudden it's 22-22. And then Argonaut really actually started a drive in the fourth quarter that looked like they were about to take the lead, and it was like, okay, this might, still swing in the Mustangs' favor. And in the red zone, Amadeus Alcala forces a fumble with a huge hit, and the Falcons end up recovering in the dog pile. Colfax ends up turning it over on downs, and Argonaut turns it over on downs. Colfax takes over with about 3:35 left in the game, marches down the field, and kicks a game-winning 26-yard field goal from Cannon Tomlin, actually, to win that one 25-22. I also want to give a special shout-out to Colfax coach Kyle Stowers, his son Landon Stowers. He came up after the game, introduced himself, and said that he watches our show every week. So thank you, Landon. We want to give you a shout-out. We love hearing those that are watching our show. And Kyle Stowers is a great coach over at Colfax. Both the Stowers brothers I've mentioned, I played for them when I was at Del Oro. Kyle was actually my U.S. history teacher as well, one of my favorite teachers I had. So shout out to you guys. But that does bring me to my biggest players of the week this week. Cannon Tomlin is, they're giving me a good problem to have because I've got to pick a player of the week, and I don't know if I have it picked yet. But Cannon Tomlin had 88 rushing yards, 86 of which came in the second half, and he had the game-winning field goal in that one. Malachi Thompson had 136 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns in the win. They nicknamed themselves Thunder and Lightning, and I think that's the most appropriate nickname. I mean, Colfax's defense as a whole in that. They gave up 242 rushing yards in the first half. They gave up 61 total yards in the second. So just an impressive performance by Colfax there. And then I'm going to give a special shout out to Savannah Williams of Forest Lake Christian Volleyball. But I'm going to refrain on what she did until we get to that part of it because she had an impressive game. Then shout out to a team too. Colfax Cross Country had 5 runners finish in the top 8 of the D4 subsections. Jessie Redding got first place. Micah Redding got 4th. Jade Bittner 5th. Carly McCabe 6th. And Sophia Sunding in 8th. The Colfax team ended up taking first in D4 by a wide margin, I think by over 40 points almost. And they just dominated that meet. Now they're getting on to the section meet over the weekend. So shout out to Colfax Cross Country. Aaron, shooting it over to you. Who are some players of the week that you have this week?
Yeah, I've got a few. Obviously, Henning with 5 touchdowns, that's insane, but he wasn't the only Lincoln running back with a lot of touchdowns. Nathan Crawford, 12 Bridges, helped the Rhinos win their first playoff game in school history, and Coach Chris B. first playoff win in history of him coaching. Crawford had 3 rushing touchdowns and a receiving touchdown. 12 Bridges was down, and we'll probably get into that a little bit too, but 12 Bridges was 26-15 in that game late in the second quarter, and they stormed back and beat Modesto Christian to win, so that's huge for a junior-only team. My Lincoln Athlete of the Week, though, is actually going to be the Kirkpatrick of Lincoln High School Cross Country. She's a freshman, and she was 20th out of 86 runs the D3 Frostoff race at 16:12, which is her best race of the year. I'm not going to say by far, but it's definitely her best race of the year. So shout out to her. Congratulations on that. Great performances from the area. Getting back to football, Granite Bay football, they defeated Inderkum 24-14. Carter Jackson had 22 carries for 187 yards and 2 touchdowns in that one. Roseville football, Brandon Graydon, second year in a row that Roseville traveled on the road to win a playoff game. Brandon Graydon, 4 touchdowns, carrying that Tigers team, 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns, 28-21 win at Oakdale. Wood Creek football, their first playoff outside of a forfeit win that they got back in 2018, their first playoff win they've had since 2008. Junior Dylan Peralt scored the first touchdown of the game and had an interception later in the first half. Also, 8 total tackles, 3 passes defended. He's going to be my South Placer Athlete of the Week. I've seen a lot of water polo this last week, so getting into a little bit of that. Wood Creek's seniors Kate Rutan and Olivia Dam, 5 goals each for the boys and the girls respectively in their playoff matchups. Rockland's Eddie Hill had 6 goals in a first round matchup last Wednesday against Franklin. And then finally, Whitney's volleyball team, they won the section championship over Vacaville, and Jenna Kraft had 12 kills in that section title win.
All right, an impressive performance over there as well. Sorry, I thought I was muted for a second. Matt, over to you. What were some performances that stood out to you this week?
This is sort of more of a shout out to Vista football that I wanted to mention. Obviously we talked about that game. They lost pretty badly. But Yuba City, big offensive line, big quarterback. They also had an offensive line and play fullback. His name is Kyrie Cade. He's listed at 6 foot and 75 pounds, 12 rushes for 43 yards and 2 touchdowns. Late in that game, right, late third quarter, early fourth, I don't know, Yuba City's within the 10-yard line. They hand the ball off to him twice in a row. And Vista senior linebacker Wes Bonar, all of 5'10", 165 pounds. So he's 110 pounds lighter than this full Cade. He sticks his shoulder in there and makes 2 tackles in a row on 2 consecutive plays. I just wanted to give him a shout out because at that size, going against that guy, I don't know if I would have done that, but that was pretty impressive. And he made clean tackles too. It's not like he needed any help. So I just wanted to give him a little shout out. My player of the week is Avery Pieri. She's a forward, a sophomore at Folsom Lake College on their women's soccer team. Last week, she earned a national award, United Soccer Coaches Player of the Week. She scored 3 goals and had 2 assists in Lake College's last 3 games, including the only goal in a 1-0 win over Delta. Locked up the conference to the Big 8 conference title, and it gave the Falcons the #1 seed in the conference playoff. She's my player of the week.
All right, an impressive performance there. I mean, national award winner. I think you get the Gold Country Media Player of the Week if you're winning a national award. I think that trumps the other one. So congratulations to you on winning our newfound made-up Sports Jam Gold Country Media Athlete of the Week award. And let's give a little shout out to some of the other sports going on before we get into this Friday's games. I know in my area, Placer Tennis is playing for the section championship today, actually, against Central Catholic. They're playing that one down in Stockton. They beat Los Banos 6-3 in the semifinals. They're shooting for, I think, like the 24th section title in program history between girls and co-ed. The coach, Tom Isaac, has been there, I think, 21 years, and they have won 20 league titles now, either won it outright or won a share of it. Talk about consistency and success. So shout out to Placer Tennis chasing that section title today. They're the top seed in Division 4, so hopefully they go get it. Also, a shout out to Forest Lake Christian girls volleyball. They won the Division 6 section title on Saturday for the first time since 1998. The Falcons have been dominant this season, and they haven't lost a set since September 24th. They're 27-4 on the season. They ran through league without dropping a set and playoffs without dropping a set. This is where it gets insane. This was their 4th consecutive section championship in a row. As a school, Forest Lake Christian was 1-11 in section championship matches coming into this game for girls volleyball. And then they got this win. I mean, it's a huge win for them. They got the 3 seed in NorCal's for D6. They're hosting North Hills Christian from Vallejo on Wednesday in the opening round. So shout out to Forest Lake Christian. I mean, you could put this up there with their most successful seasons ever in girls volleyball, and let's hope they keep that ball rolling. Small school up there, but always has great athletic programs. And a special shout out to Bear River Girls Volleyball. They earned the 8th seed in NorCal's for D5. They're hosting Fresno Christian tomorrow night in the opening round. So shout out to Bear River for that one. Aaron, I know you had a section championship over the weekend as well. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so Oh, cool. I'm in mute. I just want to make sure. Yeah. So Whitney defeated Vacaville in 3 sets on Saturday. The first set was back and forth, but Whitney just ended up taking it 26-24. There was, I think, 6 lead changes in that first set, and then the second set they were down early, and then they went on, I think, an 8-2 run and ended up winning the second set 25-16, and then just absolutely dominated the entire third set 25-14. Whitney's one of the best volleyball teams in all of Northern California. They are the #1 seed in D1 for NorCal's for a reason. They took it again. Jenna Kraft with a great performance. A couple other players I wanted to shout out. Caitlin Cochran, she had a great performance as well. 7 kills, 4 aces. And when she, along with Alyssa Eimer, were back to serve, they just went on huge scoring runs, and they've been like their top 2 scorers all season. Whitney has peaked at the right time. They had to deal with some illnesses and some injuries for a 3-week period towards the end of the season, and that was really a grind period. I talked to their coach, Cami Kazel, and she said that she really feels like that the team really learned a lot about itself during that time and kind of faced a lot of adversity, and she feels like that's kind of helped them be even stronger going into the postseason. So, watch out for them in the NorCal playoffs as well. Evelyn Hill had the match-winning kill for the Wildcats in that one. Congratulations to Whitney Volleyball, but I wanted to shout out some other sports as well. Granite Bay Girls Golf, they played last Monday at the Masters in Stockton and finished second to Pleasant Grove. They are actually playing today right now as we speak at Berkeley Country Club for NorCal's, hoping to make it back to the state championship to defend their state title. Del Oro and Lincoln High Volleyball, despite losing in the section semis, are actually going to be in the NorCal playoffs as well. Del Oro is going to host first round. There'll be a 6 seed hosting on Tuesday. Lincoln High snuck in as the 16 seed, are going to have to travel to face the #1 seed. Rockland has also made it in. They are the 15 seed traveling to the 2 seed Valley Christian in D1. But I wanted to highlight a lot of cross country. I plan on going to the sections this Saturday, which there's going to be a lot of teams, a lot of individuals from the area there, from all of our areas. From my area, Whitney boys at subsections, they won the D2 race. They look really solid. Peter Kendall and Jackson Geiselman of 12 Bridges were 6th and 7th respectively in the D4 varsity boys race, and 12 Bridges they're not even, I wouldn't even say they're a junior only team. They have a lot of freshmen and sophomores on that varsity team. They finished 3rd as a team in D4, and they're off to sections. Western Sierra boys were 2nd in the D5 race with Graham Martin and Ryan Trieu, 4th and 5th overall. Rockland High freshman Allie Harmon, 3rd in the D1 varsity race, so she'll be at sections. The Granite Bay D2 girls is probably the biggest headline going into sections. Granite Bay girls were 1st. Whitney girls were 2nd in the D2 race. They're going to be competing against some great teams in St. Francis and Vacaville. It's going to be a really good race on Saturday. Angeline Gutierrez was 3rd in the D3 race for Del Oro. Mikkel Jobson 4th for John Adams Academy in the D5 race. And then also shout out to the Wood Creek boys cross country team, who finished 7th out of 23 teams in the D2 varsity race and have also qualified for sections.
All right, a busy week over there. You, Aaron, I think you have a good problem to have. Every team you cover keeps on winning.
I'll take it. I'll take it for now.
Matt, over to you. What are some? I know you also had a volleyball section championship. Let's start with that and some other performances you saw.
Yeah, Oak Ridge girls 4th year in a row in the section finals, because in 2020 there were no playoffs. So 18, 19, 21, and 22. And for the 3rd time they played St. Francis, and they won the rubber match. They beat them in 2018, lost them in 2019, and then they beat them Saturday in 4 sets to win their 3rd section title, and 2nd consecutive and 3rd in 4 years. So Trevin Morgan, he's been to the finals every year since he's been there. So great job by them. And they won the first 2 games against St. Francis, then lost the 3rd one. And when that happens, you never know how the 4th game is going to go. But it was close, and Oak Ridge pulled it out 25-21. Elle Weaver, unofficially, I have 19 kills for her. Emily Child, 16. Madison Walker, 8. So a great job by Oak Ridge. And now their reward is a spot in the open division for the state playoffs. So I know Coach was hoping to be in Division 1, but they got stuck in the open. So we'll see how they do there. Oak Ridge Tennis, the number 1 seed in Division One. They're playing in the semis today against 5th seeded Granite Bay. And cross country, Aaron already mentioned D2 is a packed division, and I'll throw Vista Del Lago girls in there, Aaron, as battling with Whitney and Vacaville and Granite Bay. But all 6 of my varsity teams, Folsom, Oak Ridge, and Vista, all 6 made the section race Saturday. And for the exception of Folsom High girls, the other 5 have good shots at making it to state. So it could be another exciting weekend here. And then Sanvi Gotti, Folsom High girls golf, again playing in Norcals today.
All right, so you guys had a busy one as well. I think all of us, this is probably the busiest time of the year. But swinging it back over to football, we got a big Friday night coming up, starting with where all of us are going to be. Aaron, let's start with you. Where are you going to be Friday night?
This may be the game that I'm most excited about to cover all season, because whenever I've seen Rockland, it's been a heck of a ball game. I saw them Glacier Peak. That ended up being an interesting ball game. And then I saw them against Oak Ridge, and that was a heck of a ball game too. This is Rockland Jesuit. It's the 5 seed Jesuit taking on the 4 seed Rockland. Very intrigued by this matchup. Jesuit won 38-10 over Gregory on Saturday, so they get one less day to prepare for this one, while Rockland got 2 weeks. Jesuit is led by the running back duo of Jagger Shaddix and Anthony Siebels, who have combined for over 1,100 yards and 16 touchdowns. In Jesuit's 2 losses, they struggled with stopping the run, and that is an area that Rockland has been strong in with Mason Silva and Elias Brown. I think if Rockland can get their run game going early and Joey Roberts, their quarterback, can play the way that he has in the second half of league play, the Thunder can definitely make it tough for the Marauders defense. I do think that Jesuit will be able to keep it close. I'm actually going to go with a little lower scoring than some people may expect. I'm going to say Rockland 21, Jesuit 17. I wanted to also give a couple quick other score predictions before I hand it on back. Jordan, I know you're covering Placer Wood Creek this week, and I think me and you kind of have similar thoughts on this, but I won't say anything. I'm just going to say Placer 34, Wood Creek 28. And then Lincoln Kimball. Lincoln is a 5 seed. Kimball is a 4 seed. Lincoln has to travel down to Tracy. Lincoln does not have a good history of playing in the playoffs on the road, but this is a different Zebra program than we've seen in a while. And I said that I think Ryan Henning's going to take them as far as he can. I think he's got one more week in them. I don't think Lincoln has ever won 2 playoff games in the same season. They're a record-setting team this year, and I'm going to say that they do it again. I'm going to say they go on the road and beat Kimball 31-27.
All right, I like it. Matt, over to you. You have 2 of the biggest games in Division One. I guess another, like I said, good problem to have. Talk about where you're going to be Friday night and what you expect from each of those games.
Yeah, well, where I won't be is at Folsom. They're playing Sheldon, the 8 seed. Folsom got a much needed rest last week with the bye week, and they're going to be fresh and ready to go. While Sheldon had I think they beat Lincoln Stockton 33-22 or something like that. So it was a physical game, close game. Folsom coach Paul Daugherty said Sheldon's got some pieces that could give us some trouble, and while that may be true, I don't think it's enough for Sheldon to win the game. So I foresee Folsom moving on there. I will be up at Oak Ridge, the 3 seed, who hosts the 6 seed Elm Grove, which should be a very good game. These teams met last year. I know it's a different year, but last year they Oak Ridge trailed 13-0 at half and came out and scored 28 points in the second half, and then won the game on the final play when they stopped a 2-point conversion. So if this game is going to be anything like that, this should be a great game. Elk Grove is huge offensive line, run the ball, pound. So it's going to be a tough matchup for Oak Ridge's defense. The good thing is Oak Ridge's defense is the strength of the team, and it should be a great matchup in the trenches. I could see this game going either way. I mean, it's a 3 against a 6, but I wouldn't be surprised if Elk Grove won. However, I'm not predicting them to win. I'll say Oak Ridge is going to win a close game. Just they're at home, that helps them. Plus, they had the bye week. I think that's going to help them. So, but one thing, they can't afford to fall behind. So Oak Ridge got to get off to a good start in this game.
All right. Should be a good one. I'll start with the 2 games I won't be at in this one. In Division 6, the number 6 seed Colfax. It's going to the number 3 seed Orostimba. These 2 have met twice before in the playoffs. Colfax won both matchups. That doesn't matter for this year's game, but I thought Falcon fans might think that's a fun fact. The Falcons actually ran through Orostimba the last time they made a run to the section championship game. and they won that one on the road there. So, hey, maybe a little history repeats itself type of thing. I think the Falcons, though, do use the energy from last week's win to pull off the upset on the road. I'm going to say Colfax wins this one 28-27. And then Antelope and Del Oro, the Titans have so many weapons on offense. I mean, got receiver Cassidy Cole, quarterback Josiah Bateman, who can sling it. And of course, in my opinion, possibly the best running back in the Sac Joaquin section in Karan Borders, who's going to Sac State next year, I believe. So another great running back staying in that pipeline, going to undefeated Sac State football. But, as many weapons as Antelope has on offense, they say defense wins championships for a reason, and Del Oro's defense has been unbelievable this year. They've shut down better weapons than what Antelope has, and I think Antelope might be able to put some points up, but behind Caden Pinnick in that offense and Del Oro's defense as a whole, I'm going to say Dio wins it 42-21 over Antelope. But where I'm going to be is Placer and Wood Creek. So this is the 1-8 matchup in Division 3. But on calpreps.com, which is what the section uses for their rankings, Placer and Wood Creek are the number 1 and number 2 teams in Division 3 right now in the rankings. Wood Creek's coming off a 49-0 win over Golden Valley. Placer's coming off a bye. This Wood Creek team is scary. They are solid. They have weapons. I know when people think Wood Creek, football is not the first sport that you think. You probably think basketball or baseball. This Wood Creek team is changing that perspective. This is not going to be an easy matchup for Placer. If I'm a Placer fan, I'm probably not thrilled that this is my first playoff game. But that being said, if you want to win a section title, you're going to have to beat everyone. It doesn't matter what round you got to do it in. So I still think it's not an easy matchup, but I'm going to say the Hillmen just have too much talent on this one for Wood Creek to handle. They're going to pull away in this. I'm going to say Placer 31, Wood Creek 23.
I would agree. And one thing I wanted to just say is, you mentioned, you not wanting to play like an opponent like that. I would argue that if you are going to face an opponent that difficult, this might be the actually perfect time to do it, because you're coming off of a bye week. So you had 2 weeks to prepare for, knowing that they could potentially be your opponent. So I think if you're going to face them, this might be a good time for the Hillmen to do it.
And I think the chess match we can find in this one's going to be awesome, just because these guys have a lot of common opponents. They both played Roseville. They both played Oakmont. That's not something you often see in playoff games. So I think the chess match of seeing what they've done against common opponents and whatnot is going to help. I just, the way Placer runs the ball and the way they can attack you so many different ways, it seems like that's a team that just always finds a way to win. And I've got to give the edge to Placer in that, especially being the home team. But I would not be shocked if this game goes down to the wire.
Well, ironically, 3 of the games this week, Antelope, Del Oro, Placer, Wood Creek, and Oak Ridge, Elk Grove, that's probably 3 of the shortest driving times that the teams are going to have to, go and play opponent on the road, because they're all within about 20 miles of each other. Usually you have to travel, Lincoln's traveling down to Tracy, or teams from down in Stockton are traveling up here. That's one of the shorter drives you'll have. So they're pretty fortunate.
Yeah, it almost feels like a regular season non-league game or something like that. But I think that's going to just about do it for what we've got on this week's show. Does anyone have anything we want to add before we get things going?
Yeah, so first off, you mentioned Sac State, and as a Hornet alumni, Stingers up on that. Nice to see them having success. But no, I wanted to talk about just a couple other matchups I have in my area. Yeah. So Granite Bay is traveling to Downey this week. This is another interesting matchup for the Grizzlies. I think a lot rides on their run game. I said that going into the postseason. I'll still say it now. I personally think that they're probably a year away from having a really sustained success and actually fighting for a section title. I think Downey's going to get them in this one, but I definitely could see that being a close game. I wanted to also talk about 12 Bridges. 12 Bridges is traveling down to Houston. And again, I think that's another team that's probably about a year away. I think the fact that they've won a playoff game, that alone right there is success for that program. I do think they can keep this one close, but I'm going to say 12 Bridges loses, let's say, 38-24 in that one. And there is one more I'm missing. Oh, yes, West Park. West Park is playing at home against Nevada Union this week. That's an FVL rematch. West Park got them actually at West Park last time, and they're playing them again at home. I think having that bye week is going to do wonders for them, even though Nevada Union, I think, has started to peak at the right time. I'm going to go West Park in that one. Let's go 42-27.
All right. I think Nevada Union, a lot of people are rolling their eyes seeing what West Park did in that one, but West Park NU, that That Nevada Union team's very different than the Nevada Union team we saw 4 or 5 weeks ago.
Yes, and I happen to forget still one more team. That's the problem, is when you have so many teams that are kicking butt, you sometimes forget that there's so many in the playoffs right now. But Roseville, as I mentioned, they won their first round playoff game. They are traveling to Patterson this week. I personally think that, Patterson's a great team. I don't think that it's going to be quite as much of a blowout as some people will expect. I do think Roseville is going to have their season come to an end this week, though. I'll go 35-24 in that one, Patterson.
All right, so we're going to have high-scoring shootouts everywhere. Matt, what about you? Is there anything else you want to add before we get going?
Nope, I'm good.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Sports Jam. I've been Jordan.
I've been Aaron.
And I'm Matt.
All right, we'll see you guys next week.